I welcome all of you on platform of YourPedia Education. And on YourPedia Education, I am showing you my interaction with lot of visionaries, professors, academicians, researchers. And in that line today, I'm going to interact with one of the very learned and I'll say expert in his own domain, Professor Amit Agarwal. So Professor Amit Agarwal is presently a professor in IIT Bombay, and I had interaction with Professor Amit, and believe me, it was one of my best interaction I ever had. The kind of information I could get from Professor Amit, you will listen to it and you will also enjoy the interaction. So Professor Amit, let me give you brief about Professor Amit. He graduated from IIT Kanpur and then after that he did his doctorate from University of Delaware. And after that he for very small time he has I think worked in Tata Motors. So he will tell that during the interaction. And then he joined as faculty in IIT Bombay. He has done his postdoctorate fellowship also from University of Newcastle, Australia. And these are the courses which Professor Amit is taking as of now in IIT Bombay. Majority of his work is related to microfluids, turbulence, fluid mechanics, internal engine, heat transfer, and other domains also like CFD, etc. So these are the some research areas. If we fix up the research areas of Professor Amit, then micro channels, that is the one of the research areas in which he is working, flow in micro channels and particle image velocimetry. So these are turbulent flows. These are some of the domains in which Professor Amit is presently working. And from his website, I could find out these are the research projects which Professor Amit mentions also during his interaction. So the work which he has done, pulsatile blood flow in microchannels. So he has mentioned about the work, and I am very sure you will enjoy the kind of passion he has while explaining his research work and the kind of application of his research work related to human being. So that I am very sure you are going to appreciate and you are going to enjoy. So on the basis of my little homework of research background of Professor Amit, I interacted with him on these points. So his journey from IIT Kanpur to Tata Motors to IIT Bombay, research projects, major research areas and research project which is handling, and his work on microfluids and turbulence. And he says fluid mechanics is non-intuitive. So small change can make a big significant difference. So what is the meaning of that? Micro device, blood plasma separation device. That is something which is a very good discovery by Professor Amit. And he's also worked on micro devices. So that is what I discussed with him. And after that, some more points which I discussed with him was nanoscale integrated circuit. That is what he's developing. Synthetic jet, what is the meaning of that? Electronic cooling. For electronic cooling it is required. And also what is the application of microfluidic devices in healthcare, defense, etc. and agriculture. That is what I discussed. And some more things like if you want to, yes, and one more thing, Navier-Stokes equation. That is something which is very important. Normally students do not study that in graduation. So what is the significance of that? He is also recipient of Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Award and many other prizes. So I also asked him that if some student wants to join under you, what you expect from him. I'm very sure many of you will be dreaming to work under Professor Amit. You need to know about the professor first. You need to know the research area first. And I'm privileged, I'll say, or honored to interact with such learned people and get to know about their research areas. You should also enjoy it. So let's go and watch it. Good morning, Professor Amit, and welcome on YourPedia Education channel, sir. I'm glad to have you here today.
So thank you for inviting me. It's a great honor to be coming to your channel and talking to all of you. Okay. So it's a wonderful opportunity for me as well. Thank you.
Okay. Professor Amit, before I came to interview you and interact with you, I made some homework regarding your research work, regarding your academics. And I have certain queries, certain questions which I'll be talking and which I'll be discussing with you. So my first interaction point always is about you only, sir. Like I was going through your academic journey, you're graduate of IIT Kanpur, and then you did your higher educations, and then you served for some time in Tata Motors in industry, and came back to academics. And presently you are in IIT Bombay. So, sir, I want from your side how this entire journey was.
Okay. So, yeah, as you said, I'm a graduate from IIT Kanpur and I always wanted to get back to academia. That was my first love. But then when I got an opportunity to work in Tata Motors as part of the placement, campus placement, I thought, why not just take it and get to see how the industry works. And I think that was a very good decision which I took. I went to Tata Motors, Pune. It was a really wonderful place to work. I got exposed to different divisions, which gave me a broad perspective about how things happen in an industry, what do they expect, teamwork, and so many other qualities that you learn when you are there in an industry. So
Okay.
that was what I got, but then I wanted to go back to academia. Yeah.
Okay.
So, so for that, essentially, I mean, people told me, yeah, I wanted to go to like University of Delaware. I went for my PhD. I initially went for a master's in science, and then I continued there for a PhD. And then after my PhD, I went to University of Newcastle, which is there in Australia, for my postdoc. So essentially, I had a good working experience. I worked in USA, and then during my PhD, I got to visit the Delft University for as a visiting student. So that was in Netherlands. So it's Europe, a different sort of a working environment. And then we worked in Australia, which is of course a different continent altogether. So it gave me a very interesting overview of how things happen in various continents and the work culture, the work ethics and everything. Yeah.
Okay. Professor Amit, I think I can ask you very straight question here that how important do you think, sir, is industrial exposure for faculties? I mean, who teach the students later on, how important is the industrial exposure as you had? And sir, what is the significance of postdoctorate fellowship? Because if you want to become faculty in premium institutes nowadays, then postdoctorate fellowship, what is the significance of that, sir?
Yeah. So that's actually a very good question because see, industry, it helps to broaden you. You become a practicing engineer. You see how things get translated into practice. So
Right, sir.
it gives you a very different perspective altogether. It gives you an idea of what are the real problems that industry faces. And sometimes you are amazed by how relatively simple looking the problem is, but then the solution may not be as straightforward because the solution may be straightforward, but the thing is, can you implement that?
Right,
Can you
sir.
implement that in the minimum cost?
Right,
So
sir.
those are the questions that you have to answer. And
Right,
most
sir.
of the time, the answer is not, I mean, that's why it is not that available solution is not the best solution. So you have to think of something else, which is
Right, sir.
even better.
Right, sir.
So it is a very humbling experience in that sense.
Okay.
Now, coming to the second question that you asked about the postdoctoral research, I think again it is also very important because, see, during your PhD, you're working on a given problem which is essentially being defined by your research supervisor, by your PhD advisor. Whereas when you go to a postdoc, you have more time to think, you have more time to explore other problems, and so that again, so you are getting exposed to a different research culture, research problem, and you can also do things on your own reading and your own thinking, discussions, etc.
Right, sir.
So that is what, and then once you come with that experience to an academia, you have several problems to take off
Right, sir.
because you already had time to go through these problems.
Right, sir.
So that's how it helps.
Yeah, Professor Amit, you said you were already clear that you wanted to come back to academics sometime. So you had your industrial experience also. Many students who have temperament wise, they want to go for academics and teaching, but always there is a confusion because as you know, the ecosystem in India, there is a more inclination to get into industries than into teaching or something. So what do you think, sir? What is the appropriate time to have industrial experience after graduation or after PG, that is a master's, or after PhD? When can somebody think of having industrial experience?
So I would say one should go for an industrial experience, whether it is after bachelor's, master's, or PhD. It does not really matter because what is more important is to get exposure to see how things happen on the other side, and what are their problems, and how to solve them. So yeah, so the timing is not that critical.
Okay.
It also gives you some break from studies. Essentially, you are studying for 12 years and then you go for a master's,
Exactly.
bachelor's. So then you have already spent 16 years, 18 years. So it's a good break. You sort of see and it gives you some financial flexibility. So it is good in some several sense, but one should pursue the interest. If one is
Yes.
really interested in academics,
He
one
should
should
go.
go for it, not just stop and think, yeah, that is what I would say.
That is the important part. Okay, so Professor
That's the
Amit,
important.
you are graduate of IIT, and what I understand, having background of IIT myself also. So what I understand is normally graduates of IIT, they do not come back to India once they go abroad, and they prefer serving in those countries. So your case is one of the cases where you went abroad and then you again came back. So what is the reason for that, sir? Why you came back to IIT Bombay?
See, one is always the love for the country and the people. You know, your family is here, and you would always like to see them in good time and bad times both. You would like to be there with them and sharing your joys and sorrows with them. Of course, that's a very big motivating factor. The other one is, of course, trying to do something for the society. So I always want to do something. Of course, how and when we will be able to make a meaningful contribution, that's a different story. But at least the trial is there, the effort
Okay.
one should make.
Okay.
Yeah. And of course, now a lot more people are coming back to the country,
Yes, yes,
even
yes, yes.
from IITs and as
Yeah,
well. Yeah.
yeah. Professor Amit, could you have done anything differently in the research and academics had you been professor in US?
Yeah, that's actually a very interesting question. So, yeah, I don't think so, actually. In fact, I would say that probably the success I got here is probably more than probably I would have gotten. Of course, there is no way to evaluate that uh, to sort of see whether that is a correct statement or not. But here you get a lot of freedom in way you do things. There are a lot of students who are there who are very hardworking, motivated, who are willing to spend their time and energy with you. So there are a lot of positive things. The funding was very easy at one point of time. Uh, I mean, so these are the factors, especially like funding and availability of students and good students to work with, and the students being very motivated and hardworking and focused. These are the things that I mean, I mean, because of which I could do things that I could do here.
Okay.
I don't know how it would have been there, but I'm not sure I would have been the same there.
Okay. So, Professor Amit, for your personal growth, it would have certainly been different. But as far as India is concerned and the students in India are concerned, it is really good to have you here in IIT Bombay, sir. And because your teachings are certainly going to help all these students. Now, sir, I enter a little bit into your from personal side to little bit research side. I was going through your interview, sir, one of the interviews in which you said a very interesting thing. Your domain of teaching is fluid mechanics and heat transfer, what I know. And in that you said one very important line, though I am also from mechanical side, still I want to know the meaning of this, sir. You said fluid mechanics is non-intuitive and small changes if you make in this, it can lead to the significant solutions. Sir, it's a very wonderful statement, but I want you to elaborate.
Okay. So if you, I mean, I love fluid mechanics because you see, we are surrounded by air, we see water. If you just look at the sky, you see some beautiful patterns from the clouds coming. So, I mean, one can think of why are these happening? So why are these patterns forming? What is the reason behind them? So you see that, okay, some change in pressure, temperature, whatever, flow conditions, that is what is leading to these patterns. Of course, if you look inside us, we have flow of blood happening inside our body. We take in air, breathe out air. So that is also continuously happening. You have to look at industries. There are, again, a lot of industrial processes which involve fluid flow, or the fluid flow is happening through all these pipes, and you have a lot of pumps and turbines which are there. So you see that it is there all over the place. The fluids are all over the place. And that curiosity is what brought me to the subject. And what other thing which I liked, which is what the statement that you are referring to, that even if you want to think of that, I will do this and I will get this sort of a solution, this sort of a behavior of the flow, and you try to do that because you have changed something, you see that the solution that you're getting has now changed also. So that is what is very non-intuitive and very interesting about the fluid flow.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what I mean by small changes here and there can bring about a large change in the solution that you would get.
Okay, that's great, sir. Professor Amit, now I want you to tell us something about your research area, sir, and the latest projects being handled by you as of now.
Okay, so I work on several different problems, but two problems that I would really love talking about is, one is development of micro devices, right, and the other one is looking at equations which are beyond the Navier-Stokes. Or so the first problem is more applied, where we try to develop things and try to bring it to the market, and the other place where we it's more theoretical, where we try to get into the fundamental aspects of fluid flow and heat transfer and try to solve problems or address issues which have not been done in the past.
Okay. So, sir, my next question was related to this only. Like, I was going through your work, and is majority research work is on microfluids and turbulence. So, sir, can you please tell in brief what is the meaning of this microfluids and turbulence?
Yeah, so again, as I said, from all these various examples where fluid mechanics is applied, you see that the flow of air and water around us is mostly turbulent. Okay. So that means that it is not simple laminar, it is not something that is very predictable, it is more chaotic or it is more turbulent, right, sort of a thing. So that's what we mean. And of course, trying to understand how the flow happens, what would be the forces. For example, if you're an aircraft which is flying, okay, you want to see how much fuel it will consume, how much lift it would have. So the flow around it is turbulent. So you have to understand the turbulent flows.
Right, sir.
And similarly, when you go to micro devices, you want to develop point of care, small devices for like, again, let me just take a specific example. You see nowadays, there are pregnancy kits, there are glucose meters. So all these are being developed with the hope that a person need not go to the hospital, give so much amount of blood or the sample, wait for a day for the report to come in. All these things should happen in a very quick in a small time. Yeah. So how does it happen? So one will need to develop micro devices for that. So trying to shrink down things, and of course, when you shrink down things, there are new scientific and technological challenges that appear that one has to overcome. So these are the issues, or these are the things that we work on.
Okay, Professor Amit, like micro devices or microfluids and these turbulence which you mentioned, can you please tell us, sir, where do we find the application of all this? As you already mentioned that in aerospace, obviously we see that, and I was going through, there is application in a medical field also. So specific applications and industries related to this research, if you can mention, sir.
Okay. So let me just take one concrete example that we developed. So which was a blood plasma suppression device. Yes. So here, the idea is that a patient normally goes to, once the person is sick, you go to a doctor, and the blood test is one of the first things that the doctor recommends. So then you go to a pathology lab, where the blood is drawn from the patient, several milliliters of blood is taken, and then the blood is centrifuged. The liquid part of it, which is the plasma part, is taken for further test, and the cells, which are your blood cells and so on, are essentially thrown off. So this is currently what is the practice right now. Right. Now, if you want to, as we said, that you would like to have a small device, just like a pregnancy kit, can we not do all these tests at the site of the patient itself? A patient can be old, patient may be thin, and drawing blood every day may not be possible. So how do I address this problem? So then you have to remove smaller amount of blood. Maybe instead of a few milliliters, you go to a few microliters. That means a few drops of blood should do, rather than a whole syringe full of blood, which is required right now. So that is the sort of the hope. So this is the type of problems that we started working on. And you can see that there are a lot of industrial applications. industry is definitely interested in developing these devices and bringing it to the market. And our inventions and our research can help these industries do that.
Okay. So my next question, sir, was related to micro device only. Again, I will refer to one of your interviews, and there you mentioned about the Eureka experience when you got the idea of blood plasma separation device. You were thinking continuously, and then suddenly that idea popped up. So, sir, can you please, though you have mentioned a little bit about this, what is this blood plasma separation device all about? And do you have you taken the patent for this, sir, or at what stage this entire new thing is?
Okay. So, yeah, so we, as we said that we would like to, right now the blood test, the blood which is taken from the body is centrifuged. And instead of that, we would like to have a small device. So if you want to have a small device, then whatever the centrifuge is doing, which is separating out the plasma from blood, should be done by the micro device itself. So this turns out to be a difficult problem to solve. So a lot of people worldwide have tried to solve it, and they were not able to make a device which is satisfactorily enough. Okay. And we could, from our continuous effort and research, we were able to successfully demonstrate that. So that is the Eureka moment, or the good thing which happened to us that you are referring to. And we have a patent, in fact, several patents on this. We also have a US patent on it. We have and this was then transferred to a startup in Pune, which is now trying to take it to the market. And so we saw that there are, I mean, another interesting thing which comes out of all this experience is that you start off with a problem, which is a given problem. But once you have a solution, you see that it can be applied to so many other problems, other things with which you had not even started off with. You had not even imagined that these things would be relevant for you. So of course, a lot of learning is what you gain in the process. That is one thing. And then the final solution that you get can also be applied to so many other things. That's the second interesting thing which happens in this entire journey.
Right, sir. Professor Amit, like researchers and academicians like you who are repository of a lot of knowledge, and they come out with these kind of new inventions or discoveries, I will say. And then at the other side, there are entrepreneurs or the youngsters who want to go for new ventures. So there is a kind of gap, sir. There's a kind of gap, like there are ideas at one side and there are people who want to implement on those ideas. So I want to ask you, though I will be asking about entrepreneurship a little later, sir. I want to ask you, like just now you mentioned that there is a Pune-based company to which you provided this concept and they are now working on this. How do you decide, Professor Amit, like this idea is to be given to whom so that he can further take this idea to the implementation stage and commercialize it? How do you decide that, sir?
Yeah, so actually this from this journey from taking the idea from the lab, which has been developed in a lab, to a product itself, that's a very long and a difficult journey. And unfortunately, not too many people right now are into it. Of course, the government is giving a lot of incentive to startup companies and go for trying to build that ecosystem, build that environment. And that is slowly happening. But I think that there is still a lot of gaps. So to coming to your question, it's not very easy. There are not too many options as of now. So I mean, it just turned out that we had people during some conversations that came up that we have this idea and will you be willing to take it forward? Yes. And that's how it happened with us.
Yes.
Yeah, but ideally we would like to have a database of people with expertise and willingness to do things. Right. And hopefully if that can be matched to the solution that you are providing, right, that can accelerate some of these developments.
Right, yes. Sir. Because sir, there are three players here. One is industries. They have the problems for which they want academicians to solve. There are academicians who have the inventions, they want it to be implemented. There are entrepreneurs who want some ideas so that they can do that. So there are three players, but sir, there are gaps, as you said, no common platform.
Right.
And I think there is a gap for that, sir. Professor Amit, my next question to you is related to, sir, you have developed a way of basically maintaining constant wall temperature in the micro device. So I wanted to ask you related to this also, sir. What is this all about?
Yeah, so actually this was again a very interesting work that we were doing and with one of the PhD students. And what we could sort of show that with a very simple use of conduction and convection in some appropriate way, we could have a surface which is maintained at a constant temperature. So this was a fundamental discovery that we could come up with. And then we were looking at an application, how we could apply it. So one obvious sort of application turned out to be a PCR, and we thought we could make a micro PCR with that. Now, PCR you would sort of hear in the context of COVID testing. These days, everybody's talking about RT-PCR and PCR.
Right.
So we were at that stage, wanted to make a micro PCR, but of course, this is something that I regret that did not happen for various reasons. Otherwise, this testing that we are doing right now could have been accelerated, which requires PCR, could have been hopefully accelerated or at least done at a lower cost.
Right, sir.
So again, this is an example of a very interesting fundamental idea translating into, which could have at least translated into an interesting product. At least we still believe that it is possible, that journey is still possible.
Okay. Professor Amit, my next two questions I will merge together because I believe they are more or less same, and they are also related to one of your another very interesting research, and that is our synthetic jet. So you are working on synthetic jet, which is used for electronic cooling. And in that, sir, I believe you are using the nanoscale integrated circuit, are requiring some kind of very effective cooling technique. So what is this synthetic jet method of cooling, especially electronic circuits?
Right. So as we know that laptops and mobiles or any electronic gadget that we use with use gets heated up. I mean, we can feel that the temperature has gone up.
Right, sir.
So that means that there is a large amount of heat which is getting generated. And this heat generation which is happening is in a very, very small area.
Right.
So this small area makes it very difficult to remove that heat that is being generated by the electronic chip which has been mounted, which is in our mobile phone or our laptop.
Right, sir.
So the idea was to cool that so that the temperature is below the acceptable limit. And one idea was to use a synthetic jet, which you said is like a breathing. It's just like you take in air inside by the expansion of the lungs, and then it comes out once the lungs contract.
Right.
So it is very similar to that sort of a behavior. So it's synthetic because you're not needing any external piping or any compressor or a pump to drive the flow. It is just happening because of the movement of a diaphragm. Just like we have lungs which are moving up and in and out. It's like a diaphragm which is moving in a cavity.
Right.
And that is what is creating this flow. And then once the flow is there, once you breathe out, that breathing out is coming in the form of a jet, which can then be directed towards the hot surface. So that was the idea. And of course, we were one of the first people who started looking at the heat transfer aspect of this problem. People had looked at other aspects, but the heat transfer aspect is something that we started looking at, and we so that is where our contribution came in.
Okay. So is this also in the stage of commercialization, sir? Making its productivity?
Actually, unfortunately, we could not, again, we had made enough effort at that time. We did not meet too much success because as we said that the environment, entrepreneurial environment has and startup culture has really picked up in the last few years. Earlier, it was much more difficult. So yeah, so we could not really commercialize this, although we thought it is something which is it should be readily deployed. Okay. And we had approached a lot of different users, potential users for our invention.
Great. Professor Amit, my next question is related to microfluidic devices application in the field of healthcare, defense, agriculture, and some more domains.
Yeah, so I have already elaborated on the healthcare and healthcare application I have already sort of mentioned. So, I mean, it is sort of related. I mean, one can, so, I mean, if I'm using this blood testing device, I can take it to a soldier who is bleeding and we can sort of see whether that person is allergic to certain things and so on. So one can actually apply it in very different ways. As I said that once you have a nice solution, there is no limit to how and different places and where all you can apply this solution.
Okay. Sir, I was going through one of your videos in which you mentioned about application of Navier-Stokes equation, and all mechanical engineers know how important that Navier-Stokes equation is. And then, sir, you also talked about Burnett equation, if I'm in right position to pronounce it. So I want you to tell us something about this new Burnett equation, which you have mentioned in one of your interviews.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, as we know, I mean, fluid mechanics, all entire flow is essentially being modeled right now as the Navier-Stokes equation. That's the fundamental equation of fluid flow. And it's a very important equation. It is like rated as one of the top 25. I mean, in several Nobel laureates list, if you look at, they will rate it as one of the most important equations in science.
Right, sir.
But of course, people, and this was done, these equations were written or derived or developed, whatever you want to call them, is like almost a century back. Since then, people and the entire field of computational fluid dynamics and the computational softwares that you see in related to fluid flow are all based on solving these equations for various cases. But so that is the importance of these equations. On the other side, there are limitations that people have realized. Like, for example, if you're looking at aircraft which is flying at high altitudes, or if you're looking at flow of air inside soils, or if you're looking at even trying to understand the Martian atmosphere, then you need to, these equations are not really, I mean, they break down or they give you results which are not accurate enough. So in that context, we started looking at equations which could be superset of the Navier-Stokes equations. Okay. So the Burnett equations are one, or there is a whole family of equations. Right now, it's still not settled. We don't have the best or the most accurate equations which are superset of the Navier-Stokes equations. So that's my other line of investigation that we are doing.
Okay.
So and we would definitely like to know what are the most superset of these equations. Yeah.
So, Professor Amit, any of your lecture on YouTube or something related to these equations, or maybe NPTEL or something, anything, because this part is not taught very well in the colleges, sir. I tell you very honestly, because only up to Bernoulli equation students are aware, but not till Navier-Stokes, or forget about the next level.
Yeah, so Navier-Stokes itself are difficult enough, and as I'm saying that people for more than a century and thousands of people are trying to solve it for various cases. So it's a very difficult nonlinear partial differential equations, those are there. So we stop there. I mean, that's where even the graduate at the PhD level, we don't really go beyond that. But of course, if one is really interested, we have recently a book on this topic. One can refer to that. Of course, this topic is reasonably complex and mathematical. So at this stage, I would not, so only interested people I can understand would be interested in looking
in that. Okay.
More about these equations. Yeah.
Okay. Now I come to third part of our interview, sir, that is related to from the perspective of students. Professor Amit, many students aspire to get into premium institutes like IITs and work in the areas, domain of research in which you are working. So some student who is interested to work under you as a PhD student or master's student, MS students and all. So how he should prepare himself? What do you expect from him? He should be ready with so that he works under you in that particular area of research.
See, my expectation is that the person should be very sincere and hardworking.
Right, sir.
So, and of course, he should have interest in research. Interest in, see, as you know, research is like toiling. You get a lot of frustration because things do not happen the way you have imagined or you have planned. So it's a very unplanned, I mean, you just keep on trying various things and something works and a lot of things do not work. So that patience, if you're willing to have, and that toiling you're willing to do, then that's enough, because everything else can be really learned. Whatever background material you need to know can be taught. But this is an attitude which is what is very important. You really want to discover something.
Okay. Now, Professor Amit, since you have done very good research work, sir, you have been decorated with a lot many prizes also, and one of the prestigious prize is Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Award. Sir, in the field of science, this is very prestigious award. I want to, since you are awardee with this particular prestigious prize, so I want to know through you only, sir, what is this prize all about? Because we keep on hearing about this prize, Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Award. What is this all about, sir?
Yeah, so as you said, this is the actually the highest scientific honor that the country bestows on a scientist, on a scientist, and it is given to two top scientists out in 7 different categories.
Okay.
So it's like physics, chemistry, maths, biology, medical, engineering, and earth sciences. So these are the 7 different disciplines, and the top two scientists are awarded every year. And this is typically handed over. I mean, this is of course uh, by CSIR, which is the Council of Scientific and Industrial Research. Everybody, I'm sure, knows about CSIR. So it is handed over. It is a CSIR award, and it is normally handed over by the Prime Minister himself in a ceremony.
Okay. Professor Amit, I understand that when you work, when you go for research work, you never do that with these prizes in mind. But when they are bestowed upon you, sir, what is the reaction? How does it feel?
Yeah, definitely. See, it's as you said, there are a lot of people who are working, and only a fortunate few get these awards because of I mean, the small number that they have. So it's of course very a nice feeling to be recognized. It also validates the approach and the effort that we have made over these years, and I'm sure it comes as a lot of boost to also the students who have worked, because essentially it is their effort that gets projected in the research that a faculty does. It's all the hard work and the toiling of the students for which we are credited.
Okay.
But actually, it's all the efforts are theirs.
Yeah. Professor Amit, I was going through one of your interviews, sir, and in that interview, you mentioned that whatever quality research work is going on in the labs of IIT Bombay, that research work and its knowledge should have more outreach. It should go outside the confines or the boundaries of IIT system. It should go even to those graduates or students who are not lucky enough to be part of IITs. So what do you think, sir? How can this be done? What is one suggestion from your side? How can it be done?
Yeah, so there are several steps IIT Bombay is already taking to make the research which is happening in its labs and which has a lot of value as when translated into a commercial product. So we see that there is Sign here. A Sign is a company or is a section of IIT which encourages entrepreneurial activities. There is also a research park which is coming up where the industries will be in very close association or very close proximity to academic to the professors in IIT Bombay. So there are a lot of different efforts which are going on, and I think these efforts would. I mean, we'll start seeing the fruits of these efforts in a few years down the line when more startups, and in fact, a lot of startups have already happened and a lot of them are already successful, very successful also, of course. So I'm sure we will hear more and more about them as we have more success stories.
Okay. Professor Amit, I think my last question for this interaction to you is again related to what we just now discussed. Sir, we keep on, as the channel, we keep on interacting with many industrial houses also, many industrial people also. And if I tell you, sir, there are so many industrial problems. I mean, people keep on saying that we have these issues and there is nobody to resolve this. And they want these problems to be resolved by academicians like you. And then, sir, we come to academics like you, and then we find that there are so many good discoveries and so many intellectual property, repository of intellectual property these academic institutes are. And then there are entrepreneurs who do not get an idea. Maybe they are ready, they are motivated to work on those ideas. So if you can see, sir, there are three main players here. Who are basically, there is a gap is there among these. Like industrial problems do not get faculty, maybe because they are not even knowing that this kind of problem industries are facing. And similarly, your devices are not even, people are not even knowing how this is to be done. So how do you think, sir, this problem can be resolved, if you can give some idea?
Yeah, so of course, people have to come together and talk, and there has to be an atmosphere of mutual trust and understanding. So I think, I mean, everybody really graduates from, I mean, all people in the industry had graduated from some college or the other at some point of time. I mean, I think, but what sometimes we fail to understand is the time scales that happen. So I think a lot of this issue is the different time scales. The academia takes a little bit more time and they're more interested in a little bit more difficult or involved problems. the industry is sometimes looking at timelines which are very quick. So they want a solution in like a month or a few months. Where the industry, because the academia does not really have a person who is very well familiar with that specific problem. So that problem taking up for that student or whoever the person who's going to work on it, getting familiar with that and then building up the background is going to take certain amount of time.
Okay.
So I think that's where some amount of disconnect happens, because that means that the earliest the academia can give a solution is like 6 months or even a year, whereas the time scales for industries are much smaller than that. So I think that is one thing which the industry and the academia have to understand, and so that could be, I mean, that is the first thing that, and dialogues like these have to happen more often, so that term problems which are slightly longer term, which can be defined by industry and can be taken up by academia, those are the ideal problems that can be solved. Not like an immediate problem which can affect their production, but rather something which can go into production like 2 years or 3 years down the line.
Right.
So if those problems are identified and brought to the academia, I think there is a lot of meaningful collaboration which can happen, which, as you know, I mean, I would also agree is important for the growth of both the industry and the academia.
Right, sir. Professor Amit, I will ask one last question, another one question, and that is related to your research work only, sir. So can you suggest, sir, if somebody wants to go for entrepreneurship related to your domain of research, what are the entrepreneurial opportunities existing in your domain of research?
So, right now, I would say that there are several schemes from DBT and other things where this sort of entrepreneurship is being, which means essentially taking a micro device and then trying to commercialize that. So those schemes are available. So one can look up those things and then get into a startup mode. So I think that is definitely possible, is what I would say.
Okay, so micro devices is the domain in which people can think of going for entrepreneurship. Right, sir.
Yes.
Okay.
And
so
as I'm saying, it's essentially point of care devices or the devices which can be deployed at the site of a patient for diagnostics and for other applications, for other medical applications.
Right, sir.
That's the area that I work in, and I see there are a lot of entrepreneurial opportunities which are there because the market size is huge, opportunities are huge, and it's a matter of, and as we are saying that there are enough solutions which are available on the other side. So somebody who's willing to take up these solutions to the market, there is a lot of scope for such people for doing that. Yeah.
Right, sir. So Professor Amit, I'm glad to tell you that sir, I have have discussed more or less all the points which I had collected today to interact with you, and very satisfactorily and very graciously you have answered all the queries, sir, all the questions, and I'm really thankful to you, sir, for this.
So thanks for this wonderful opportunity, and I really enjoyed talking to you. Right, so thanks again,
Thank you.
And
thank you, sir.
Thank you.